Sacramento, the capital of California. But what does it really have going for it besides giant State Department buildings and a lot of homeless people? Well, apparently underground tunnels and a famous serial killer's house. In the early 1860s, Sacramento was hit hard by a torrential downpour from one of the largest storms in California history. The banks along the Sacramento River were broken and waves of water flooded into the city, causing the equivalent of $3.2 billion worth of damage and killing at least 4,000 people. This event would come to be known as the Great Flood of 1862. The city was basically underwater for months before people could receive any aid, so they were just surrounded by floating corpses of their friends, neighbors, and family members. This tragic event would lead to the Sacramento you're familiar with today, which is basically a city built on top of an already existing city. Evidence can be seen of this around different parts of the city, but the most notable evidence of this is the Sacramento tunnels. The tunnels were created as a direct consequence of the foundations of new buildings being built above the previous ones. But as you could imagine, the people using these tunnels weren't the most productive members of society, and were often populated with opium dens, brothels, homicide crime scenes, and members of the occult. Additionally, the tunnels housed many speakeasies during Prohibition and Chinese immigrant families who came to work in the city during its major construction period. So this is actually one of the main places they take you if you go on the underground history tour thing with the Sacramento History Museum, which I would have been a part of had I not came 5 minutes late after driving down 3 hours south. So that kind of sucks, but at least you guys can still see it. Now, with all that stuff going on, many people believe the tunnels underneath present-day Sacramento to be haunted, with claims ranging from hearing voices, feeling cold spots, hearing footsteps and knocks, and seeing shadow figures and full-on apparitions. At least that's what the museum claims. But with all that being said, do you think the underground tunnels of Sacramento are really haunted, or just a memory of an interesting yet dark past? Picture a 60-year-old lady in your head. You probably see someone small and sweet, resembling either your mom or grandma, maybe watering her garden or baking cookies, but you should change that image in your head because even the elderly are capable of committing terrible atrocities. We're here at the Dorothea Puente house, known to many as the Killer Landlady. She was a serial killer who lived in Sacramento and used her house as a boarding home for the elderly, addicts, and mentally disabled. How sweet. Well, it was until it came to light what she was really doing. Puente was letting these people stay at her home with the intention of profiting off of them. Once guests stayed at her home for a long enough period of time, she would then poison them or strangle them in order to cash their social security checks. And what ultimately got her caught was the fact that she was burying these deceased guests in her own backyard. Puente would ultimately kill 9 people, and I'm not too interested in empathizing with her or highlighting how terrible her childhood or romantic relationships were that led to her to this point. There are plenty of shows and other YouTube videos that will touch on her whole life story, but I can assure you she was a pretty shitty person well before these murders. She committed countless other crimes before, and there's a very good chance she murdered people at her first boarding house as well. And yes, that's right, this was actually her second go at this. The first boarding house she was running got closed because she was caught cashing the checks of her tenants, and she was sent to prison for theft. And I don't want to go over every story, but one that's particularly funny is when she hired a handyman to build a 6-foot-long wooden box for her so she'd have a place to put her books. But then after it's made and he's driving with her on the way to the storage facility to store the books, she tells him to pull over and just dump the box of books in the water. Like, I don't know, if I'm the handyman, I get that you're just doing the job and she's the old lady, but you're not like, okay, this is a little weird. In 1993, Puente would ultimately be charged with 3 counts of murder, which still ended up with a life sentence with no chance of parole. She would ultimately die in prison in 2011. So we are outside her house today. The current owners who live here actually just drove by not that long ago, so I was trying not to be obnoxious or too loud. But you see there's a little placard here, reads, "It was awful what that woman did, don't blame me, the house." And then they even have some decorations up here commemorating when she was arrested. As you can see, it looks like they put a little mannequin of like an old lady with a police officer next to her. And then there's some other stuff they have here. They have some stuff promoting a documentary, as well as some information about the house. As you can see, I have a bunch of different stuff from the Sacramento Preservation Society, I guess. And then, yeah, some more plaques commemorating what happened. Well, guys, that was a pretty crazy trip. We've seen some supernatural stuff, and then some crazy, more real-world set stuff. You know, we went looking for aliens and reptile people, and then we came to Sacramento, and we learned about a bunch of underground tunnels and a crazy storm that killed like thousands of people, and then also an old lady that was burying people in her front yard after she killed them. So yeah, man, crazy stuff. But if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe for more. I'm gonna do way more videos like this in the future. And yeah, thanks for all the support. Appreciate you guys. Peace.